Unlike Japan, I never had any dreams of going to China, but last month I went there nonetheless. I went there mainly to work for 10 days on the World Mind Games, the 4th annual since 2010. The company I work for has since then done a daily highlight show covering it, and last year, I got to work on it. It was hard work. I worked from 9 in the morning to about 11 at night every day, editing. As soon as I got to the Beijing airport, I was met with English. Then in the car ride to the convention center we were working at, a car ahead of ours had the Umbrella Corporation's sticker in the back window. There was English at the convention center too, and security guards. We were guarded by Beijing's finest, as you can see. The convention center was close to the Bird's Nest Stadium. I learned that the day after we came there because on the first day the pollution caused too much fog to be able to see it. Anyway, after working hard for a week, I stayed behind in Beijing for 4 days, during which I stayed at a hostel in a party-centric area called Sanlitun. The hotel at the convention center was very nice, and obviously the hostel room couldn't live up to that, but it was alright. Shortly after arriving, I walked down the street a bit to the Jiashao clothing market. It was a huge multi-story store with several assloads of clothes and that annoying kind of vendor who started yelling, "You want to buy shirt? You buy! You buy!" as soon as you make the slightest eye contact with any part of their sales area. I bought a coat there somewhat unintentionally. After the clothing market, I went out on a little trip. The trip from hell. It all started with me wanting to visit an electronics store that I found by googling, and I went out in my foolishness armed only with the name of the store, in both English and Chinese. Well, after walking up and down the street where it was supposed to be, and showing the name of the store to Chinese people and having them point me to the other direction, twice I might add, and showing it to a security guard who tried for a solid 10 minutes to explain it to me in Chinese, I finally showed the address to a bike cab who drove me to a store, but it wasn't named the same, and it didn't really have video games. So either the store just changed the name and turned out shit since the blog post I read, or the store just didn't exist. While searching for this mythical store, I'd come across another store that did have games. Not many, but I did see a couple of Famicom Pirate cartridges like I was hoping to find. I found one that looked interesting, but I decided to wait until I had been to the other store. Well, after I gave up on that store, I walked back, only to find that it had closed for the day. Of course. Then, tired and quite angry, I decided to take a taxi back to the hostel. But waving one down didn't work, and I was rejected by 2 parked ones. I don't know why, but either they were off duty at the time, they hated foreigners, or both. My feet and back hurt, so I didn't want to walk to the subway stations first, but the possibly xenophobic cabbies forced me to, and the line to the subway looked something like the line to a rock concert. The next day I went to Tiananmen Square and the entrance to the Forbidden City. I had to pass a metal detector to get into that area, and there were a lot of guards and even some soldiers there, always vigilant, protecting China from the scourge of democracy. I was a bit nervous and wondered if picture taking was even legal, but I saw plenty of Chinese people doing it, so eventually I did so too. Tiananmen Square was pretty huge, I have to say. The area in front of the Forbidden City felt a bit more welcoming. Also around there, it occurred to me that speaking Swedish in response to the random people trying to sell me Russian-style fur hats or wristwatches with Chairman Mao waving his hand worked better than speaking English, because saying no thanks in English just causes them to try harder. The day after that, I went to a tourist trip to the Great Wall of China. Some of my co-workers had gotten to go there earlier in the week during filming, and of course I had to go there too. It's kind of obligatory when you're in China. When they went there, it was extremely windy and cold, they said. But I was lucky, I guess, as it was pretty nice and sunny. Me being me, I kept thinking of that stage in Bart vs. the World, and that stage in Moto Racer. I'm pretty proud, however, that I managed to overcome this set of stairs. It took me maybe 20 minutes, but I made it. I played music from Rocky IV in my headphones to motivate me. If Rocky Balboa ran up these steps as part of his training, he could have punched out fucking Godzilla. And then at the top of those stairs was a vendor guy, and he had the gall to try and sell me water for 50 Chinese yuan. I bargained him down to 15 though. Fucker. The day after that I went home. My impression of China is a bit lower than that of Japan, mostly caused by small things, smaller than the government issues or the pollution. Chinese people hawk and spit everywhere. The cars honk incessantly and park wherever they please without concern. They drive electric scooters that you can't hear until they just miss you on the street. One McDonald's I was in smelled like piss, and for some reason no stores except 7-Eleven keep their drinks in a fridge that was actually turned on. Sorry China, I know I came across as a nitpicking piece of shit there, but you could learn a thing or two from Japan when it comes to cleanliness and politeness. Anyway, I did go back to that store the day after the trip from hell, and I bought that cartridge. The clerk selling it handed it to me with such a weird, half-smug, half-slimy smirk on his face that I sort of got the impression that he thought that he had majorly ripped me off or something. I didn't expect much because of that, and multi-game cartridges like these usually say they have 100+ games, but really they have like 15, and the rest are just renamings and repeats of those 15. But this one, a 168 in 1, really meant it. The last 18 of these 168 were repeats, but damn, 150 games for 50 Chinese yuan is not bad at all. In fact, it's awesome. It had such games as all the Contra games, full trilogies like Double Dragon, Ninja Gaiden, and Adventure Island. 4 Kunio games, single gems like Mighty Final Fight, Batman, Street Fighter 2010, and Astyanax to name a few. Some games that didn't even come out on Famicom are even here, like Power Blade and Darkwing Duck. The biggest hidden gem was Mitsume ga Toru, or Three Eyes Boy as they call it, a rare Famicom game. Then it has a few obvious bootlegs like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat 4, Aladdin 3 and Harry Potter. Then there are several games that are modified but definitely based on other games, like Super Contra 6, 7 and 8 that seem to use Super C as a base. Double Dragon 4 is Target Renegade, a game much worse than any Double Dragon game. Chip and Dale 3 is a Contra-like heavy barrel, but with chipmunks. Robocop 3 is the Japanese version of Shatterhand, while Robocop 4 is Robocop 3. Tiny Toon 3 is Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle. Ninja Gaiden, or Ninja Gaiden as it says here, is the European Shadow Warriors version. Pikachu is a hack of Tetris by Tengen. Further down the list is the usual suspect of multi-card games like Soccer, Lode Runner, Legend of Kage, 1942 and of course Super Mario Bros. I find it a bit funny how the graphic on the selection screen is from Captain Tsubasa, although none of those games are included. Although I am relieved they aren't. Stupid football RPGs. Then at positions 98 through 150 are like this cartridge's version of Action 52. Actually they are 52 games. They're mostly original creations as far as I can tell, with some pretty good graphics, and they're all playable. Much better than Action 52 already, but even so, few of the games are really worth playing. I counted no less than 14 shooting gallery type games. 5 games were Battleship with different graphics. 3 games were like Spy Hunter without any weapons. There were a couple of overhead puzzle games, but in only one of them you could actually attack. 3 games were just about catching stuff that someone throws down, like Oil Panic on Game & Watch, only more insipid. Mad Christmas you probably already saw in JonTron's Christmas video. 2 were Whack-A-Mole games. Some of the games were clearly ripping at least some stuff off of other games. Hexapod New is almost a remake of Buzz Bombers on Intellivision. Warrior is very similar to Battle City. Fruit Dish's music is trying to sound like a part in Bart vs. the World. And Polar Bat has Kunio on the title screen. Polar Bat and its cousin the Archer were actually 2 of the better games here. You shoot upwards at birds and stuff, while at the same time jumping over rocks that roll along the ground, so it's more stimulating than the run-of-the-mill shooting gallery kind of game. Despite the 52 games being pointless, and the last 18 being repeats, that still leaves more than 90 NES and Famicom games on a single cartridge, and not bad ones either. For 50 Chinese, this was a great purchase. Sony talks about PlayStation Plus and the Instant Game Collection. This game has a game collection in itself too, and perplexingly it's super light. I'm not a technical whiz, but I expected a cartridge with this much content to be a bit heavier, to have more inside of it. It has more inside of it than any game, and still it weighs less than any game. It's like a feather, really. It's weird. But anyway, a great cartridge, some great games.